thought that they needed, thank you. So Parashat Tisa, talking about the golden calf, Bnei Israel thought that they needed an intermediary. They thought that they needed someone to be in between them and Hashem. And unfortunately, it was the Erev Rav, a group of Egyptians that wanted to convert but didn't have full intention. And Moshe Rabbeinu brought them on into the Jewish nation, not with Hashem's full consent. And as Hashem tells Moshe, Shichet Amecha, your nation, Moshe, they made a mistake and referring to not Bnei Israel, but referring to Moshe's nation of Egyptians that he brought into the fold. They were the ones that caused the golden calf, and unfortunately, Bnei Israel followed along. It was actually 3,000 Jews only that followed along, but the nation as a whole were punished because the rest of the nation just stood idly by and watched. And Moshe Rabbeinu, our great leader, Torah tells us, he fought for us. And Hashem wanted to get rid of Bnei Israel because of the golden calf, the golden calf. Moshe Rabbeinu fought for us. He put his neck out on the line and said, "No, this is our nation. It is the sons of Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov." And even though Moshe was promised, "Don't worry, I'm going to start a new nation through you." He would have been the full kavod through Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe said, "No." He says, "Better that you erase me than erase Bnei Israel." And actually, to fulfill the words of tzaddikim, because the words of tzaddikim are so great that even if they say in a maybe like erase me from the book, Moshe is erased from one parashah, which is last week's parashah Tetzaveh. He's not mentioned in the entire parashah to somewhat connect to the fact that Moshe did say erase me from your book. From the time Moshe Rabbeinu was born until the end of the Torah, every parashah has Moshe Rabbeinu's name in it, except for Parashat Tetzaveh, last week's parasha. But that's because he put his neck out on the line for us and said, "Erase me! Don't erase the Jewish nation. Erase me from your book." And Hashem sees how much Moshe is defending Bnei Israel, and he gives forgiveness. And then Hashem tells Moshe, "Now come with the second luchot." Meaning when Moshe Rabbeinu, of course, when he saw the sin of the golden calf, he broke the luchot that Hashem gave him. And now, after forgiveness, Hashem tells Moshe, "Now you bring the luchot, you bring the materials, I'll write on them." First time around, we'll discuss why. First time around, Moshe went up empty-handed, and Hashem provided him with the tablets and the writing on the tablets. Second time around, Hashem says, Moshe, now you make the first stones like the first ones were. You make them, Moshe. You bring them up, and I'll inscribe them. And at the end, we talk about the 13 attributes of mercy that Hashem has and tells Bnei Israel that anytime there's a time of tzara, connect to these 13 attributes of mercy, and it will arouse mercy and rachamim in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It's Hashem, kel rachum v'chanun, erech apayim, rech chesed ve'emet, notzeh chesed lalafim, noseh avon ha'fesher, chata'ah v'nakeh. We say that in Tachanunim. Okay, so let's get into a little bit of a deeper explanation, starting with Machatzit Shekel. The famous explanation, I'm actually going to touch upon this in the bulletin this week, as to why were the Jews commanded to donate a half shekel, not a full shekel. And the first to explain this is Rav Shlomo Al-Kabatz, the author of the L'Chadodi, who says that a Jew is not complete by himself. Everyone has to look at themselves as half, as not complete. I need another Jew to complete myself. I need to be part of the nation to be complete. I need to get married in order to be complete. I'm not complete on my own. And this teaches us the importance of achdut and unity. Also, there's a commandment when it comes to Machatzit HaShekel, He'ashir lo yarbeh. The person that's rich cannot add. I'll give 2 shekels. I don't want to give a half. I'll give a full one. No. Ve'adal lo yamit. And the person that's poor cannot give less. So, oh, half a shekel, it's too expensive for me. Can't give less. And the great Rabbi Levovitz, who was from the famous Mir Yeshiva, explains that this was actually a test for the wealthy. Because in general, the wealthy were ahead above the regular person in the nation. They always wanted to give more and to show that they're ahead. And here, it was a test for them. It was not such a small amount. As we said, 10 grams of silver nowadays is $16 Canadian. Probably even back then it was a small amount. It was something that everyone could do. So it wasn't such a challenge for even the poor person. But for the rich, it was. They wanted to show off, give more. And from here, we see that money is not what differentiates us. In the eyes of Hashem, we're all equal. We all have to do our part and all do the best that we can. The Torah says when it comes to Machatzit Shekel, Ze yitenu. Give this. Anytime the Torah says Ze, it means that we're looking at something or there's something there. So Moshe Rabbeinu was actually shown a coin made out of fire and from Hashem, and this is how it should be constructed. And we're going from, we quoted a Sephardic rabbi, an Ashkenaz rabbi, and now a Hasidic rabbi, Rabbi Nachman of Breslev, explains what's the deal with the coin of fire. And he explains that fire is like money. Fire can be used for constructive purposes, to cook, to illuminate, and fire could be used for destructive purposes, to destroy, bullets, bombs, fire. So too money. Money, if used properly, can be used for charity, can be used for great things in the world, to build. And God forbid, wealth can also be very dangerous. And people can use their wealth to give influence where they shouldn't and do negative things with their wealth. And therefore, it was shown to Moshe Rabbeinu in a coin of fire to tell Moshe this lesson that fire could go either way. And just like money could go either way. Now, I mentioned one of my most favorite Dvar Torahs, and that is the following. We're introduced in the Parashah to Betzalel. Betzalel was the contractor of the Mishkan. And the Torah tells us, I will fill in him the wind, the spirit of Hashem, with knowledge in all the works and how to build everything, great knowledge. לחשוב מחשבות, לעשות בזהב ובכסף ובנחושת. And now this pasuk, to think thoughts, to do with the gold, silver, and copper. What does this mean? לחשוב מחשבות, to think thoughts, to do with the gold, silver, and copper. So, quoting my rabbi in Israel, Rabbi Lamed, who said the following explanation. He said there was a story. The story goes that somewhere in Europe there was I think it was in Lithuania, there was a time where there was a heavy tax on kosher meat. The butchers, the shochets, were doing shechita, and they were selling, and the government wanted a piece of the pie, and therefore they were charging heavy taxes. So it was very difficult for the Jews to have kosher meat. It was so much more expensive now. There was tariffs from the government. They wanted part of the action. So what that caused was a black market kosher meat operation where shochtim were brought in by locals, the Candlestein operation, and they do shechita in someone's backyard, in someone's basement, so that the government wouldn't know, and the people would pay the regular price, and they would cut out the government's taxes. And these people were called in Yiddish, Winkel Shochtim. Winkel Shochtim Winkel means a corner, and they would do shechita in the corner, meaning in hiding, because, again, the people didn't want to pay those taxes, so they would do a contraband, the undercover shechita. One day, one of these shochtim were doing shechita in private, in seclusion, and all of a sudden, a police officer came in and heard that there was illegal shechita going on, and he came in and he caught the shochet red-handed. The shochet was so shocked that he was caught red-handed that he did shechita to the police officer. He took a shechita knife and he killed the police officer. Oh man, this caused a major uproar, and the goyim of the city went crazy on the Jews. And unfortunately, they started burning things and they started burning stores and pogroms. And it got so bad that actually the goyim themselves realized, look, we actually went really too far with this. We should have just taken that shochet, put him in jail, do what we have to do with him. But we really took it on the whole city. People's stores were burned down and everything. And the government said, you know what, we have to pay back the community. We've gone too far. So what emerged was an organization that said, we are going to be the ones to receive the funds from the government and we'll distribute to the necessary parties that lost their homes, lost their businesses, etc. The rabbi at the time, the Brisker Rav, was not happy with that group, and he wanted to form a different group. He felt that that group wouldn't do the proper job. Unfortunately, it was that group that he didn't want. They were the ones to succeed in winning favor in the eyes of the government, to receive the funds from the government, and to distribute. Not long after the story, after distributions, a widow came to the rabbi and said, Rabbi, my husband's store, my husband passed away. I used to run his store. My store got burnt to a crisp during that pogrom. There was money that was distributed. I didn't get a penny. Can you please fund me? He said, what do you mean you didn't get a penny? He said, I didn't get a penny. He said, this is crazy. You should be the first to get. You're a widow. You have kids. You're running a business yourself. Your husband's business. You should be the first to get. So the rabbi called a meeting with that organization that distributed the funds. And he called a meeting, and they were sitting there, and he told them the following. He said this pasuk, Lachshov machshavot bazahav, lasot bazahav v'kesef hanechoshet. What does it mean? He tells that organization. What does it mean in the Torah when it says that Betzalel thoughts to do with the gold, silver, and copper? And he told them the following explanation. He said, what happened was when they were building the Mishkan, you can imagine when they needed gold, everyone came forward. If you go to now to build a Beit HaMikdash, everyone would come forward with their donations. People came forward with their gold or silver. What happened when a person came with their gold? What would they say? They would say, please use my gold for the Kodesh HaKodashim. Use my gold for the menorah. Everybody wanted their piece of gold to go on the highest place. So the question is, whose gold indeed went to the Kodesh HaKodashim, went to the Aron, went to the menorah, or went to maybe a fork or something that was not so, not as prestige as the menorah? Who made that decision? Betzalel. Betzalel, lachshov machshavot. He had like an X-ray vision. He was able to see through the intention of the person and to see really what his intentions are, and therefore allocate his gold accordingly. And he would see if the guy's coming with a whole heart and he's doing it with the proper intentions, then the gold will go to the highest place. But if he sees that the only reason why he's bringing this gold is because his friend convinced him, his friend said, come on, you're so cheap, why don't you donate? So, okay, it's very nice you're donating, but that would go to a different level. So says the rabbi to this community, he says, look, you were awarded this amount of money to distribute to the community. I felt, says the rabbi, that you guys were not l'shem shamayim, that you guys weren't going to do a true job. And I was proven correctly. Why? Because this lady, who's a widow, is the gold of the gold. She's the gold standard of where this money should have been allocated to first. You might have given to other things, but if you didn't give the money to where it should have been allocated to first, it shows me that you were not legitimate in your entire operation. Unbelievable story, the unbelievable explanation. It shows us also the X-ray vision of Betzalel when people would donate to the Mishkan. Moving on to the story of the Cheta Egel, the story of the golden calf. So what happened over here? How did this fall apart? So there was a little bit of midah keneged midah. We mentioned that Moshe Rabbeinu brought these converts, these Egyptian converts, into the fold without asking Hashem. And that's exactly what happened over here. Hashem tells Moshe, it was your nation that messed it up. Shichet amecha. Moshe did this on his own. And so too, the people as well didn't ask for advice. Didn't ask Aharon, hey, should we make this golden calf or not? They forced their way through to the point that Hur, if you read Shul this past Shabbat, we're speaking about Miriam's son Hur, who's a tzaddik, and he fought up against them, and he lost his life in the process. Aaron he didn't want to lose his life, so he kind of was parv. Didn't ask, but they told him. And that was like a midah keneged midah. Moshe Rabbeinu also didn't ask and brought in those converts. And so too, the punishment in a certain way came as well from not asking. Now, why we mentioned that after the forgiveness, Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu, this time around, you bring the materials, I'll inscribe them. Why? Why didn't same thing? Moshe, come up, you got forgiveness, come up, and Hashem will also provide the luchot and the inscription. So here the great Rabbi Moshe Feinstein explains the following. When luchot fully came from Hashem, there's reason to believe that, well, you know what? It's so perfect, I can't connect to that. It's Hashem's Torah, but it's so perfect, it all comes from Hashem, I can't connect it. Now, when Moshe received the forgiveness, and Bnei Israel as a whole were asking forgiveness, Moshe was our leader, then what Hashem sees as a reaction to that is, you know what? You're going to have an involvement in the Torah as well. You bring the materials, I'm going to inscribe on them. You're going to have an involvement as well in the Torah. And of course, that's, we have involvement in Hashem's Torah. There's the written Torah, there's the oral Torah. The oral Torah, the Gemara, is written, but there's so many questions, there's so many halachot, there's so many modern day situations that we could also have a piece in Hashem's Torah. We ask Hashem, it's in the tefillot of Shabbat, give me a piece of your Torah. There's sometimes a question that a person asks and that was never, ever, ever asked before on a certain pasuk, on a certain parashah, and that's your piece of Torah to bring down to the world. I'm sitting in my office here. There's my computer to show you. I'm sure you've seen this in shul, but thank God, a lot of books. Our great rabbis wrote a lot of books. That's just one side of the room, and then we got another side over here, right? So our rabbis wrote a lot of svarim. There is explanations and deeper explanations and details that each and every one of us can bring to the table. Every single Jew is part of the Torah in a certain way. Of course, there's 630 mitzvot. We can't change certain things, but there's new technologies, and how do I rule in this case? Now, if you delve into that and you give that ruling, you might be the first person in the world to bring that down. And now that's your purpose in a certain way in Hashem's Torah. And that's the concept of bringing the materials as well. Hashem says, I want you involved, each and every one of us involved in Hashem's Torah. The last piece is that we mentioned that Bnei Israel, it was only 3,000. There was only 3,000 or so Jews that got killed because they were the ones directly involved with the golden calf. But it was all of Bnei Israel that were guilty. Why were they guilty? They weren't involved. Only the 3,000 were. They were involved by association, guilty by association. They didn't stop it. They were there. They saw what was going on. They didn't stop it. They were also considered guilty. I actually have a quote here from Albert Einstein. Bad things happen when good people stand idly by. Unfortunately, 90% of the world, 95% of them are good people. It's that 2%, 5% that are unfortunately are not so good and they control things because everybody else just stands idly by. And this as well connects to what this will end connects to we spoke about Yitro a few parashiot ago, and we and so like this. Yitro was one of the advisors to Paro. Yitro, Bil'am, and Iyov were three advisors to Paro. Paro asked them advice. Look, I want to get rid of these Jews. I want to kill them. What should we do? Yitro runs away. Bil'am says, yeah, kill them. Iyov is quiet. Each one got midah keneged midah. Each one got a reward or a punishment in line with what they did. Bil'am said, kill them. At the end of his story, he got killed by the sword. Yitro ran away. He ran away from being an advisor to Paro. He ran away from all greatness. He got greatness in return, as Moshe Rabbeinu was his son-in-law. Iyov was quiet, and his punishment was he lived a life of suffering. So why is that the midah keneged midah? And the answer is that if you're quiet, then you somewhat agree to what's going on over here. And how do you show that you don't agree? If you scream and you protest. And therefore, Iyov, you didn't scream, the midah keneged midah is you're going to scream your entire life in pain. And that's what's going on over here, unfortunately, that we were also accomplices to this Averah because we didn't protest the 3,000 and the Erev Rav that were doing this sin. So hopefully through these few ideas, we're able to give you a little bit of a nutshell on the Parashah. We're going into Purim, unbelievable great day of Segula as well, as it was at the Seudah when Esther received the Yeshua, the salvation, because she told Achashverosh, it was this wicked man, Haman, who wants to get rid of us. She told him that over a meal. And it's a segudah that at your meal as well, take a moment to have a little prayer, pray for Bnei Israel, pray for the hostages, pray for your own personal needs, and Hashem should help us, give us a salvation in our own situation, and for all of Bnei Israel, B'ezrat Hashem. Chazak u'baruch. Thanks for coming out. I know it's a tough day, it's a fast day, and it's close to Purim. B'ezrat Hashem, continue going strong. And again, thank you all for coming.